November 8, 1942. Sidi Bouzid, Tunisia, North Africa. The morning sun cast long shadows across the rugged landscape as Oberstreiter Wilhelm Schmidt crouched behind a stone barrier, his Karabiner 98K rifle clutched tightly in both hands. The bolt felt familiar in his grip after 3 years of service. Load a round. Fire. Draw back the bolt handle. Eject the spent casing. Push forward, chamber the next round, aim, fire again. This was the cadence of battle, he thought, the rhythm that had carried German infantry across Poland, France, and deep into the Soviet Union. 5 rounds in the internal magazine, discharged one at a time, each requiring manual cycling of the action. Across the dusty field, American infantrymen advanced in a loose skirmish formation. Schmidt had been told these Americans were green, soft, unprepared for serious fighting. Their equipment was allegedly inferior, their training insufficient. What unfolded in the next 60 seconds would prove those assumptions disastrously mistaken. The Americans opened fire. The noise was unlike anything Schmidt had ever heard. Not the familiar crack of bolt-action rifles, but a relentless burst of semi-automatic fire that didn't ease. 8 rounds fired as quickly as the trigger could be pressed. No stopping to operate a bolt, no break in the firing rhythm, just steady, accurate shots. While Schmidt managed perhaps 3 carefully aimed rounds, the American opposite him had already emptied his 8-round clip and was reloading. This was the M1 Garand rifle, and it was about to systematically undermine the foundations of German infantry doctrine. The psychological shock on German soldiers, raised to believe in the superiority of German weapons and tactics, would prove as significant as the rifle's mechanical performance. This wasn't merely a story of technological edge, but of a complete tactical upheaval forced upon an entire army. The roots of German confidence lay in a military heritage stretching back centuries. The Karabiner 98K, adopted June 21, 1935, represented the apex of bolt-action rifle engineering. Accurate out to roughly 550 yards with iron sights, dependable in mud and freezing weather, simple enough for conscripts to maintain, the Kar 98K embodied everything a service rifle should be in German eyes. It fired the potent 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser cartridge, capable of penetrating substantial cover. In skilled hands, the Kar 98K had conquered most of Europe. German doctrine stressed deliberate, precisely aimed shots from fortified positions. A trained infantryman could fire about 15 aimed rounds per minute with practiced cycling of the bolt. This rate seemed sufficient against Polish, French, and British troops equipped with similar bolt-action weapons. The British Lee Enfield, with its 10-round magazine, could fire faster, but German officers insisted this came at the cost of accuracy. When American forces entered large-scale combat in North Africa during Operation Torch in November 1942, German observers had already compiled assessments of American gear. These reports painted a picture of industrial abundance paired with military naivete. American infantry, they claimed, depended too much on sheer firepower and not enough on tactical finesse. The M1 Garand appeared in these documents as a semi-automatic rifle worth noting but not alarming. German analysts recorded its 8-round capacity and self-loading mechanism but highlighted that it weighed more than the Kar 98K, about 9.5 pounds compared to 8.2. The conclusion was that the M1 delivered more fire but sacrificed the precision and robustness of a simpler bolt-action system. Yet American units had already been wielding the M1 Garand in combat since December 8, 1941, when Japanese forces attacked the Philippines. Rifles shipped between August and November 1941 had equipped the U.S. Army's Philippine Division and elite Philippine Scouts. These troops used their Garands so effectively that Japanese soldiers initially believed they were facing light machine guns. General Douglas MacArthur reported in February 1942, praising the rifle's performance in the grit and chaos of foxhole warfare. By the time German troops faced Americans in Tunisia, the M1 Garand had proven itself through nearly a year of ferocious jungle combat. The reality on the North African plains crushed German expectations with ruthless efficiency. Schmidt's unit had established defensive lines expecting to halt the American advance with disciplined, deliberate rifle fire. When the Americans attacked, the volume of return fire was overwhelming, not machine gun bursts, which Germans anticipated, but rifle fire. Continuous, unbroken rifle fire. German soldiers would fire, work the bolt, acquire the target again, fire, perhaps 15 rounds per minute from trained soldiers, but each American was firing 30 to 40 rounds per minute, hitting their targets. Germans could not suppress them. Every time they raised their heads to fire, multiple rounds came back immediately. The mathematics were undeniable. In a 2-minute engagement, a German soldier with a CAR 98K might fire 30 aimed rounds. An American with an M1 Garand could fire 80. rounds in the same period. More critically, the German soldier had to break his sight picture, work the bolt, reacquire his target, and fire. The American simply pulled the trigger 8 times in rapid succession, his aim barely disturbed by the rifle's modest recoil. The M1 Garand semi-automatic operation relied on a gas-operated system as a round-fired propellant gases were diverted through a port in the barrel into a cylinder below. This gas drove a piston that cycled the action, ejecting the spent cartridge and chambering a new round. The entire process took a fraction of a second. The rifle's action remained closed between shots, maintaining barrel to sight alignment. Accuracy did not suffer despite rapid fire. Testing at Springfield Armory demonstrated the M1 could maintain 4-minute of angle groups, 4 in of spread. At 100 yards, many production rifles performed significantly better. General George S. Patton, in a letter dated January 26, 1945 to Major General Levin H. Campbell, Jr., Chief of Ordnance, wrote, "In my opinion, the M1 rifle is the greatest battle implement ever devised." This was not hyperbole. Patton understood the rifle had fundamentally changed infantry combat. A soldier armed with an M1 Garand possessed firepower equivalent to multiple riflemen with bolt-action weapons without sacrificing accuracy, reliability, or effective range. By mid-1943, the United States Army was equipping entire divisions with M1 Garands. During World War II, from 1937 through 1945, approximately 4,482 M1 rifles were manufactured. Springfield Armory in Massachusetts produced 3,526,922 rifles, while Winchester Repeating Arms in Connecticut manufactured 513,880. Production reached such levels that by D-Day in June 1944, virtually every American rifleman carried an M1 Garand. This represented unprecedented achievement, an entire military force numbering in the millions armed with semi-automatic rifles while opponents still carried bolt-action weapons. The M1 Garand's technical specifications told only part of the story. The rifle fired the 30-06 Springfield cartridge, a powerful round that had served American forces since 1906. The cartridge propelled a 150-grain bullet at approximately 2,800 foot-pulse, delivering substantial energy at extended ranges. The rifle fed from an 8-round en-bloc clip, a metal clip inserted directly into the rifle's action. When the last round fired, the clip automatically ejected with a distinctive metallic ping. While some feared this sound might alert enemies, combat veterans universally reported that battle noise made the ping inaudible beyond a few yards. The rifle's reliability became legendary. Exposed to North African dust, Italian mud, Northern European cold, and later Korean winter conditions, the M1 functioned with minimal maintenance. Field stripping required no tools. The operating rod and bolt could be removed for cleaning in minutes, then reassembled quickly. German observers consistently noted this reliability with respect and frustration. German defensive doctrine relied heavily on machine guns providing suppressive fire, while riflemen engaged targets with careful aimed shots. The MG-34 and later MG-42 machine guns were excellent weapons, but they required crews, ammunition bearers, and were vulnerable to artillery. The M1 Garand changed this calculus. American infantry squads, each rifleman armed with a Garand, could generate firepower approaching that of German machine gun teams. More critically, this firepower was distributed across the entire squad. Suppressing an American squad required suppressing 8 or 9 individually armed soldiers. The Italian campaign from September 1943 onward provided German forces extensive experience fighting American troops from Salerno landings through brutal fighting toward Rome. German infantry found themselves consistently outshot by American riflemen. A March 1944 report from the 94th Infantry Division, captured after Rome fell, noted that encounters with American infantry typically resulted in Germans being pinned down by rifle fire, even when Germans held superior positions. The report recommended increased machine gun allocation to compensate for American advantage in infantry firepower. The German military establishment recognized the problem and attempted solutions. The GE-41 introduced in 1941 was Germany's first attempt at a semi-automatic infantry rifle. Two competing designs emerged, the G41M from Mauser and G41W from Walter. Both proved deeply flawed. German specifications mandated no gas port be drilled in the barrel, fearing premature wear. This forced designers to use complex gas trap systems at the muzzle. These systems proved unreliable, fouling easily and adding unnecessary weight. The rifles were complicated to manufacture and maintain. Production remained limited, with estimates ranging from 6,000 to 15,000 total units produced before the design was abandoned. German designers studied captured Soviet SVT-40 rifles and acknowledged that the gasport system they had rejected actually worked. The result was the GA-43 introduced in October 1943. This weapon incorporated a simpler gas system and detachable 10-round magazine. It was lighter and more reliable than the G41 series. Production totaled approximately 42,713 rifles by war's end, with about 53,435 fitted with telescopic sights for designated marksmen. The G43 was capable, appreciated by soldiers who received it. However, it arrived too late, and in two our 98K rifles produced, only one G43 was manufactured. The vast majority of German infantry continued carrying bolt-action rifles until war's end. Even soldiers who received the G43 found it was not equivalent to the M1 Garand. The German rifle, while effective, was more complicated, more difficult to maintain in field conditions, and suffered from parts availability issues as German industry came under increasing strain. The fundamental problem was that Germany had entered war without an effective semi-automatic infantry rifle and never caught up. The impact of the M1 Garand extended beyond simple firepower. The rifle changed how American infantry fought. Training emphasized rapid target acquisition and continuous fire. American infantry tactics assumed every rifleman could put substantial fire on target quickly. Squads advanced by fire and maneuver with half the squad laying down covering fire while the other half. The volume of fire from M1 Garands made this tactic devastatingly effective. At Omaha Beach on June 6, 1944, the 352nd Infantry Division defended fortified positions on the bluffs. This full-strength 12-0-20-man division occupied what should have been nearly Impregnable positions with excellent fields of fire, reinforced concrete imp placements and interlocking machine gun positions. When Americans reached the base of the bluffs, their fire was overwhelming. Every man had a semi-automatic rifle and used it continuously. German defenders could not maintain aimed fire because incoming rounds were too numerous. Machine gun crews were targeted by dozens of rifles simultaneously. The Normandy fighting in June and July 1944 provided German infantry extensive exposure to American firepower. In confined hedge spaces where combat occurred at ranges under 100 yards, the M1 Garand's rapid fire proved decisive. Traditional German tactics of a few riflemen covering a position while others maneuvered no longer worked. Covering fire from M1 Garands was too heavy, too sustained, forcing German troops to keep their heads down. Statistical analysis conducted by the U.S. Army's Historical Division after the war, examining after-action reports and casualty data revealed that American infantry squads inflicted casualties at rates significantly higher than expected. Based on their numbers, while many factors contributed, including artillery, air superiority, and logistics, the consistent advantage in infantry firefights pointed clearly to the M1 Garand's role. American infantrymen could expect to win engagements even when outnumbered, provided they had reasonable cover and adequate ammunition. The German Army's solution came in the form of the Sturm 44, the world's first true assault rifle. Firing in intermediate cartridge, the 7.92 by 33 Kurz from a 30-round magazine in either semi-automatic or fully automatic mode. The St. G44 represented revolutionary thinking. Approximately 425,977 were produced mostly in 1944 and 1945. But like the G43, the St. G44 arrived too late and in insufficient numbers. Most German infantry never saw one. Those who did often lacked adequate ammunition as Germany's industrial capacity crumbled. The M1 Garand's technical evolution began long before World War II. John Cantius Garand, born January 1, 1888 in St. Remy, Quebec, Canada, moved to the United States with his family in 1899. He began working at Springfield Armory on November 4, 1919, devoting nearly 2 decades to perfecting his semi-automatic rifle design. Early prototypes used different operating systems and calibers. The U.S. Army originally favored a 276 caliber cartridge offering better ballistics than 3006, but General Douglas MacArthur, then Army Chief of Staff, insisted on retaining 3006 to utilize existing ammunition stocks and maintain compatibility with machine guns. This decision made in 1932 delayed adoption, but ultimately proved sound. Garand continued refining his design. Through the early 1930s, the rifle underwent extensive testing at Abedyne Proving Ground in Springfield Armory. Problems were identified and corrected. The gas system was simplified, from an early gas trap design to a simpler gas port system. The trigger mechanism was refined. The stock design was improved for better ergonomics. On January 9, 1936, the rifle was officially adopted as the U.S. rifle. Caliber 30 M1. Initial production was slow with only a few thousand rifles manufactured in 1937 and 1938. Production accelerated as war loomed, reaching 600 rifles per day by January 1941, the M1 Garand served American forces through World War II, the Korean War, and into early Vietnam years. It was not officially replaced as the standard service rifle until the M14 was adopted in 1957, designated as replacement on March 26, 1958, with first deliveries to troops beginning July 1959. Full transition across all units took until 1961. Even then, M1 Garands remained in use with Reserve and National Guard units. Into the 1970s, the M1 Garand's psychological impact on German soldiers appeared in profound ways. The weapon represented technological superiority that contradicted everything they had been taught about American capabilities. German troops had been conditioned by propaganda to believe in Germanic technological and tactical dominance. When individual German infantrymen, properly equipped and well-trained, found themselves unable to win firefights against individual American infantrymen, the myth of superiority collapsed completely. After World War II, detailed studies of small unit engagements consistently showed American infantry dealing disproportionate losses to their opponents. The rifle each soldier carried made a measurable difference in combat performance. American casualties from German rifle fire were proportionally lower, another indication of the M1's effectiveness. German attempts to compensate through superior tactics and defensive positioning worked only partially. Eventually, the sheer volume of aimed fire from American infantry would find targets, suppress defensive positions, and allow American maneuver elements to close with and destroy German positions. The M1 Garand's legacy extends beyond World War II into modern firearms design. The principle it demonstrated that infantry benefit from self-loading rifles that increased their rate of fire without sacrificing precision became foundational to post-war weapons development. Every modern infantry rifle from the AK-47 to the M16 to current assault rifles owes conceptual debt to the M1 Garand. It proved that semi-automatic operation was not only feasible for military rifles but essential. The story of German infantry encountering American troops armed with M1 Garands represents a moment when technological advantage met traditional military excellence and showed that superior equipment matters deeply. German infantry training, tactical doctrine, and individual soldier quality were excellent by objective measures. But excellence with inferior weapons produces inferior results. The M1 Garand gave American infantrymen a tool that allowed them to fight effectively even when outnumbered, to win firefights against seasoned troops and to advance against fortified positions that should have been nearly impenetrable. From the Philippines to North Africa, from Sicily to Normandy, from the Hedges to the Rhine, the M1 Garand served faithfully and effectively. It earned its reputation as one of the finest military rifles ever created, and Patton's famous praise was fully deserved. German soldiers learned through bitter experience on battlefields across multiple fronts that American infantry firepower represented a fundamental tactical problem their bolt-action rifles could not solve. The M1 Garand demonstrated that warfare had moved into a new era. The age of massed infantry armed primarily with bolt-action rifles was over. Semi-automatic rifles were the future, and the M1 Garand made that unmistakably clear. German infantry, brave and skilled as they were, fought with equipment that placed them at a disadvantage in the most basic infantry task, shooting the enemy before the enemy shoots you. The arithmetic remained constant throughout the war. In the time required for a German soldier to fire 3 carefully aimed shots from his Kar 98K, an American soldier with his M1 Garand could fire 8. When both soldiers were equally trained, the American would hit 2 to 3 times as many targets. In squad-level clashes, this difference became overwhelming. The M1 Garand gave American infantry numerical superiority in firepower even when German forces outnumbered them in manpower. German military theorists studying their defeats after the war consistently identified this firepower imbalance as critical. Former General Hans-Jürgen Manschufel, who commanded the 5th Panzer Army during the Battle of the Bulge beginning December 16, 1944, wrote in post-war memoirs that American infantry firepower exceeded German infantry firepower even when German forces held strong defensive positions. The human cost of this disparity appeared in casualty figures. While many factors influenced casualty rates, including artillery, air power, tactics, and terrain, studies of small unit fights repeatedly showed American infantry inflicting disproportionate casualties. The rifle each soldier carried made measurable difference. German casualties from rifle fire were significant throughout the war, and the M1 Garand deserved substantial credit. In final assessment, the M1 Garand's impact on World War II extended far beyond technical specifications. It represented American industrial foresight, engineering skill, and commitment to providing superior equipment to its soldiers. While Germany struggled with complex semi-automatic rifle projects that never appeared in meaningful quantities, the United States had equipped its entire military with reliable self-loading rifles before entering the war. This advantage, multiplied across millions of soldiers and thousands of engagements, contributed materially to Allied victory. The distinctive sound of the M1 Garand firing, the metallic ping of its clip ejecting, the sight of American infantry advancing with rifles at the ready, became symbols of Allied success in both Europe and the Pacific. German soldiers learned to recognize and respect that sound, knowing it meant they faced opponents capable of delivering overwhelming firepower quickly and accurately. The M1 Garand was indeed one of the greatest battle implements ever devised, and its superiority over the Kar 98K was demonstrated conclusively on battlefields from 1941 through 1945. The rifle did not win the war by itself. Victory required combined arms, air superiority, industrial might, and the courage of millions. But at the squad level, where soldiers actually fought and died, the M1 Garand provided a clear and measurable edge that German infantry could not effectively counter. That advantage made a difference in countless fights, saved American lives, and helped bring the war to a faster conclusion than might otherwise have occurred. The M1 Garand stands as a testament to what well-designed military equipment can achieve. It proved that investing in soldier capability, giving them the best tools possible, pays dividends in combat effectiveness and mission success. The rifle served the American military for over 2 decades, equipping troops in 3 major conflicts. Its influence on later rifle development continues even today. For German infantry who faced it in combat, the M1 Garand represented a harsh lesson in technological reality. Superior equipment in skilled hands makes profound difference in the outcome of battle.